Ian. So reading the report, I was really struck by the fact that so many of the challenges that the country faces can be met by colleges. And Sonia articulated them brilliantly. They're not new challenges, but they have been massively accelerated by COVID, and they will be compounded by Brexit. So what I wanted to do is just pick out two of the recommendations that I think are really important if we're going to be able to help colleges fulfill the role that they can in fixing these problems. And they're recommendation one, which is this idea of a long-term plan and a strategy for skills and education, and recommendation 9, which is about having simplified oversight. And I wanted to make just 3 observations about why I think those recommendations are particularly important. So the first thing is, I think that the report, and indeed any of the commissions I've sat on that have looked at skills recently, they've all sort of recognised that competition can achieve many good things. But collaboration in the time that we find ourselves is much more likely to give us the answers we need. So we definitely need to find ways to make sure that colleges can work effectively with each other, with universities, schools and private providers, so that they can ensure the best outcomes for learners, for regional economies and for wider communities. Now, I think what's key there is that the role that each institution plays in collaborations should be driven by the benefits that they can achieve for those beneficiary groups and not by where they sit in the skills architecture. So that's going to really involve some honest and selfless soul searching on the part of the institutions involved to think about what their role in a collaboration network should be. Now, secondly, collaboration of this sort is really only possible if there is a long-term strategy and a stable and long-term policy and funding environment. And the reason I say that is because the absence of those things necessarily drives quite short-term and defensive practices. You know, it can mean that people are all chasing the same pot of money or chasing the same learners and the same employers. World economies that get this right tend to make changes quite infrequently, as opposed to the very rapid changes that we see to how policy and funding, etc., is administered in the UK. And so the third point then was that if we're going to have that stable and long-term policy and funding environment, that really depends very heavily on trust. And it also depends quite heavily on recognizing the importance of having autonomous institutions. So we need to see trust between government and the institutions. We need to see trust between colleges and other colleges, and between colleges and universities and other parts of the skills system. And I think autonomy is really important because ultimately neither government nor any regulatory or funding body has a monopoly on good ideas. It's much better to have empowered, strong colleges who operate within a clear strategy and funding framework in partnership with other local institutions to meet the priorities that Sonia so articulately set out. Thank you.